Hey, everybody. Thanks for being here. There's my face. Hi. Okay, great. Here we are. Welcome, everybody. Thanks for being here. We have session 5 of lease option training, and you might be thinking to yourself, well, what happened to session 1 through 4? Well, I'll tell you. Actually, Christine and I did session 1 to 4. Christine's got a real passion for helping people through this process. She's got quite a few different strategies on the go, and which is great. And it kind of all started through, wanting to know more about this type of investing. So we did session 1 to 4. It's a bunch of content filled sessions that go in sequence on specifically how to do what's called tenant first strategy. A lot of the sessions apply to this type of strategy as well, which is called lease option to rent. Okay, so that's what we're going to be talking about tonight. And I'll be referencing couple of the other sessions. If you want more information about this lease option training, just reach out to me. It's actually not published yet. So this is this is a little bit of a behind the scenes, behind the curtain that some of you get to have a look at. And I think you're going to get a lot out of it. I sure had fun putting it together. I've got notes over here. So if I look over here, that's what's going on. And if you have questions, please go ahead and put them into the chat. I'll either answer them as we go, or if I think it's something that I will get to, then I'll let you know that as well. Okay, but for now, let's just get started. So most people know what lease options are or rent to own. Okay, the terms are used interchangeably. I like to use the term lease option because that's the technical term. Okay, you're putting together a lease with an option to purchase the property. Okay, so let's dive right in. How it works in order. So a typically a motivated seller property is found. This is somebody who um, has a property that is usually distressed. It's also actually usually a property that's in fairly decent shape. In oh, okay, awesome. Scott is hardcore. He's eating dinner with his family and listening to this training at the same time. Whoa, that's pretty cool. Um, Thanks for letting me know, bud. So this is a situation where you have a motivated seller, and there's lots of ways to find motivated sellers. I'm going to talk about a couple of strategies within this. And you have a motivated seller, you agree to do a lease option, you determine a future amount for the property, and it's and what you do is you rent out the property to cover all the expenses that you agree to cover. So you're basically renting the property and then subleasing it. So you're leasing it and you're also subleasing it. And you act as if you are the homeowner. So you're taking care of maintenance, you're taking care of repairs, expenses, all the things that you would do as a landlord, but you're buying it as a lease option. Next, during the term, you check on the seller of this property to put their mind at ease. You let them know, hey, every 6 months, hey, here's what's going on with the house. Things are in this condition. I put this kind of money into it. It's rented to some good people. And I also want you to know that I'm making good steps toward being able to buy it, right? So you're checking in just like any tenant buyer would check in with a potential future homeowner. And this is a great way to keep a good relationship with a person that has agreed to basically sell you their house through a creative process. In about, anywhere from a year to or 6 months to a year out from the end of the term, and I always recommend about 5 years. At the end of the term, you want to get ready to complete a real estate purchase contract. And I'm going to go into a little bit more detail in a bit about that. At that point, a mortgage broker will help you apply for financing. So hopefully you have, down payment set up. Hopefully there's some equity in the property by now. Um, and maybe you're even buying it maybe with a partner. So you're getting ready to purchase the property and you've basically had some time to do that. And like I said, you either buy the property yourself and now it's your investment property, or you buy it with a partner. So step one is it's finding a motivated seller. And this might seem a little drastic. And at the same time, motivated sellers are people that need help. So I'll just give you an example of Lisa, who we worked with very early on to our move out to the Okanagan. And a friend of mine who I'd met through networking, who also helped me actually buy the house that I live in now, that I talk about in the tenant first uh, strategy in the lease option training. He reached out to me and he said, I've got this friend and her name's Lisa and she won't return my phone calls. And I helped her buy a condo a few years ago and I'm concerned. So he said, I think she may be in a little bit of trouble. Last time I talked to her, she was. So, what do you think I should do, Julie? And I was like, well, why don't you let me reach out to her and see if see if she'll talk to me. He's like, yeah, she won't return my text. She won't return my phone calls. So I reached out to her. She's pregnant with her second child from a different dad, which can be stressful. It was definitely stressful for her. She wanted to move to be with this man, understandably, the future father of her future child. And so she was moving. She just needed this property off of her plate. And then on top of that, she had bought this property not only with my friend's money, but she had her parents co-sign on this, co-sign on the loan. Hey, Tracy, good to see you. So glad you're here. I'm just gonna add, I didn't mention this. If everybody can mute yourselves, that'd be awesome. And if you have questions, just type them into the chat. So great to see you. So that's kind of an overview of what happened. So on top of everything, her parents are co-signers on this loan. And so she's kind of already kind of feeling like in my conversation with her, she's feeling in trouble with her parents already because of she's got kind of a situation going on. And this property is just is kind of making is kind of the straw that broke the camel's back. And she's just feeling very much like she needs to go, but she can't. So we had this conversation. I presented to her, I explained to her my background because I'd been a motivated seller too. And a lot of you already know my my story. It's kind of long and dramatic, but I was able to communicate with her on a level where I really understood what was going on with her. I'd gone through really tough times myself, lots of babies and all kinds of issues. So that's a really it's a big benefit to working with, if not me, any coach that has a certain level of experience with this kind of situation, because it's tough to talk to motivated sellers if you have never been one. Okay, so just keep that in mind. So gave her this presentation, talked about, all the people that I had in place, my experience. We got to know each other a little bit. And I basically proposed to her, hey, Lisa, why don't I just take over everything? And we will make sure that things are looked after. And and you can go on your merry way. That was basically the long and the short of it. There's a lot more to it, as I will go over in the rest of the slides, but that's basically what I proposed. I'll take over your payments, I'll take over the taxes, the strata, the insurance, everything. You don't have to worry about a thing. And she said, holy smokes, okay, yeah, this would be a big, big help. So that's what ended up happening. Now, you might be thinking to yourself, how do I find a motivated seller? Well, there are lots of different ways. So One of my favorite ways is to basically advertise. Advertise that you are looking to help people. And I love ChatGPT because it'll make you a fantastic, engaging ad that will um, really help you attract the right people. So this is the literal word for word words that I put into ChatGPT for online marketing to attract motivated sellers. And I'll give this to, anybody who wants it. And basically, you want to give ChatGPT prompts, right? And if you're not already using it, go use the free version and see how amazing it can be. So you want to have the ChatGPT to assume the role of like a master marketer. You want to target motivated sellers, people who have a house that's in decent condition, but for whatever reason it doesn't make sense for them to list with a realtor, maybe because it doesn't have a lot of equity, or maybe because values have gone down, and explain that you can create great solutions, encourage them to reach out to you, and provide your contact information. Okay. So those are the prompts that I give ChatGPT. I'd show you the actual ad, but it's super long and you can't really see it. But I can easily provide it to anybody that wants it. So where do you post this kind of stuff? Well, you post it on Facebook, Kijiji, um, like all over Marketplace. You can make outside signs, not like sandwich board signs, probably no. But you can get motivated sellers from We Buy Houses ads. Absolutely. Most people that I find who do reach out that are motivated sellers from I Buy Houses signs, their houses are usually in rough condition. So you do kind of want to specify, hey, is your house in decent shape, but for whatever reason it's not selling. You can put these signs up in coffee shops, at schools, in, community centers. There's all kinds of places to market. Mortgage brokers are a great source of motivated sellers because that can be one of the last resorts that people go to in order to get a solution for their house. And networking. Networking is absolutely huge. I don't know if you remember that I said this, but the guy that introduced me to Lisa, I met at a networking event. I'll never forget the first time that I met him. I remember our conversation, and it's been life changing ever since. Okay. So those are the kind of places that you can find motivated sellers, not just from, marketing online, but also within your network, because you just never know. Somebody might know somebody that lives down in the Lower Mainland, like where Tracy lives, or over in Edmonton, where Alan lives. And if they know where you live, then and they know that you're in real estate investing, and they end up talking to somebody that has a situation that's maybe in your area, and you're ready to use the strategy, and this is a fit, then absolutely, networking can be absolutely huge. So keep that in mind. It's really, really important to network. Go out to networking events. Tell everybody that you're investing in real estate, and also that you like to create, win-win solutions, especially for people who are maybe having a tough time selling their property. And right now is it's tough. It's tough out there, especially in BC. It is a buyer's market. And also in Ontario, properties are sitting for sale for months. Some of them are vacant. A lot of them are in decent condition. And you might just be a solution for somebody's challenge. So definitely keep that in mind. It can be an absolutely amazing solution. Okay, so I will totally provide scripts to anybody that wants them. Okay, just like I have in the past. And so, okay, you've got a motivated seller. Now, what you want to do is you want to make sure and have a presentation for a motivated seller. And what we have in session, I think it's session one, is an actual presentation a step-by-step guide on exactly how to present to motivated sellers. So you can just go back to it, follow the presentation agenda, which goes through having your team in place, having your track record. If you have no experience and you don't have a big team, then absolutely leverage my experience, especially if we're working together. Leverage my experience because if you're talking to a motivated seller and you can't really identify with what they're saying, but you know that I can, then absolutely, bring me in, rope me into the situation, and let us work together to see if we can create a solution. You may or may not have to provide a down payment. In this case, for this deal, which was a very good deal, um, but which was a condo in Kelowna, I gave her $100 as a down payment to Lisa because I needed to give her something. And what was really interesting about it is that it was over leveraged. So it didn't have any equity. In fact, it was it was underwater by about $10,000. Okay. So that was one of the big reasons why it was so important that she get a solution. All right. But again, the house, the condo is a little one-bedroom condo in the Verve, which anybody that knows Kelowna rental market knows the Verve is a very, very popular place to live. Um, that is a really important thing to keep in mind. I kind of lost track of what I was saying here. Down payment. So we gave her $100 down and we agreed on a future price, which ended up being the balance of the mortgage at the end of 5 years. And I'll explain on why that worked really, really well a little bit later. Um, but again, going back to presenting to a motivated seller, what you're going to propose is that you do a lease option. So basically, you're the tenant and you're going to lease the property out and you're going to have an option to purchase the property at a future date. And I always recommend 5 years because 5 years is usually enough time for some equity to be created, also for you to save, you to repair your credit, you to find a joint venture partner. It's a lot of time. I know a lot of people train this strategy, lease options, as like 3-year deals. I just find that that's not enough time, and I've done dozens of these. Okay, so keep that in mind when you're thinking about timing. So again, you present to a motivated seller that you take over payments, that you take care of everything, that they can just simply move on, and you can basically help take their problems away. You need to have good paperwork in place. You need to have 3 sets of good paperwork. Number one, you need to, of course, have a residential lease. That lease needs to follow whatever area and jurisdiction you are in. So landlord tenancy laws in BC are different than Alberta, are different than Saskatchewan, Manitoba, and on, and all 50 states. Everywhere around the world has their own rules and regulations when it comes to tenancy. So you need to just work within the jurisdiction that you are in. So for BC, I'll just use it as an example. You need to add an addendum because you can. You add in this addendum that me as a tenant, I'm going to say you in this case, you as the tenant, you're going to agree to pay your insurance, you're going to cover the insurance costs, you're going to cover any maintenance that comes up because typically in a lease agreement, the landlord needs to take care of maintenance, leaky faucets, broken toilets, furnaces not working. Okay, that's usually the responsibility of the landlord. So, hey, you're the landlord now if you're buying this as a lease option. So, you also need an addendum in your lease, at least in British Columbia and I believe in Alberta as well, that the tenant, you, is allowed to sublease the property. Okay, that way you can rent it out to an equity building tenant. You're allowed to do that. You want to get it all in writing. You want an option to purchase the property in writing, prepared by a lawyer. Okay. Don't monkey around with your own paperwork because it's going to turn out like it would for a monkey. Just hire a lawyer, make the investment, even if it's like $2,000. It's worth it to get proper paperwork done for an option to purchase and to get the option to purchase registered on title. It's very, very, very important. Now, Some provinces don't allow options to be registered on title. So you need to, again, work within your jurisdiction there and figure out what can be done as far as having some kind of title security. In some cases, I'll warn you, it may not be possible, but it's still worth, making the attempt. And you absolutely have to have the option to purchase paperwork in place, two copies, one copy with the motivated seller and one copy with you. On top of that, you want to have what's called a letter of understanding, okay? And this is where you combine everything that everybody agrees to in the lease, everything that everybody agrees to in the option to purchase, plus anything extra that you want to add in there, and put it in layman's terms that everybody understands, okay? Legal paperwork is very, very important. It also can be very challenging for people to understand. Okay, so making sure you have in simple English, a letter of understanding is extremely helpful because you can have a lease and you can have an option, but it's all the little minute details that can be, like I said, complex and not necessarily understood by everybody. And then on top of that, I didn't mention it in the slide, but you need to take that lease option. You need to make sure the lawyer has a copy of it so that he can reflect his option to purchase paperwork to reflect what's on the letter of understanding. Put it in the legalese jargon because that's what lawyers have to deal with if, God forbid, it ever ends up in the hands of lawyers, which, guess what, folks? It can. It sometimes does. Yes, guess what? It has happened to me. All right. When you do the letter of understanding and you review it before everybody signs, you want to do that over Zoom, even if you need to live next door to each other. Okay, you want to do that over Zoom. You want to record it. You want to put it on YouTube in a private video that cannot be made public. Okay, well, I mean, it can be made public, but you want it in a private video because that way it's recorded on or around the date that the Zoom event happened and it's documented. Okay, so Ronald Reagan, the former president of the United States, he has this great saying, it's trust but verify. You know, you want to make sure that you've got as much documented information as you possibly can to protect them and to protect yourself, of course. And also, God forbid something should happen to the seller. You know, that has happened. It happened just recently happened to a coaching client of mine. Something happened, the seller died and he left, this became part of his estate. Had to be dealt with. And so the more paperwork that you have, the better. All right, so we've got all our paperwork done. What's next? You need to find and rent to an equity building tenant. All right, so the lease option training has part of it has a full landlording course. Okay, so keep that in mind. But you need to select an equity building tenant. I'll go back to my case study with Lisa. We bought in this building for a reason. We knew that it would be very popular to rent. Anybody that we asked about it, we knew that it would be something that would likely stay full all the time. So you want to make sure, do your research and know what you're getting yourself into. You don't want to take over a property that's going to be really tough to rent. So again, I'll use the example of this little condo that we got in the Verve, which is the Verve is so cool. It's got a beach sand volleyball court and a swimming pool and all these little balconies and little pet areas, and it's close to everything on bus routes. It's an amazing location. And we never had a vacancy. Even if we had somebody switching, we would always have the person moving out at noon, on the 30th, and always had somebody moving in at noon on the 1st. So it was in a really, really great location. And we're super selective about our tenants. And yeah, some skunks sneak through. In this case, we did not have we didn't have any problem tenants. We did have a tenant though who had a stalker. and she had to move because he would climb on the balcony, and that's a long story that we don't need to get into that right now. But it sometimes does happen. And again, it was super easy to rent. Okay, so you've got it rented. You're renting it to equity building tenants. You're taking care of it. If a hot water tank goes, you replace it. If the in-suite laundry goes, you replace that too. Because after all, you are the landlord now. So you need to make sure that you get ready. So I talked about this earlier, but I'm going to repeat it. You need to start at least you need to start a year out. I recommend this. Get ready. Know what problems you could be encountering. Understand the value of the property. Clean up whatever credits you need to get taken care of, or start advertising or trying to find or networking to find a partner to buy the property with you, because you've got this option to purchase it, and you might as well take advantage of that option to purchase it and exercise that option. I mean, of course, unless you don't want it anymore, but we'll talk a little bit about the what ifs in a little bit. You want to be working with a mortgage broker. You want to have been working with a mortgage broker all this time and doing maybe an annual check-in on an update on how, hey, this is my progress so far. Even that's for the check-ins that you can do with the motivated seller to let them know how you are doing. You want to be on top of things again so that you are ready to buy this property, or a potential joint venture partner is ready to buy the property. Okay? So make sure you're ready. 5 years can go by fast, folks, especially if you're having fun. Now, I already talked about this a bit. It was always easy to rent this property. I'm not going to guarantee that every property that you buy this way, I can't. Of course, that would be impossible. I'm not going to say that that's always going to be the case, that it's going to be easy to rent, but you should be selective. And again, I'll repeat, it's a buyer's market. So chances are there are some really good, very rentable properties out there. If not where you're living, then in some nice places like Kelowna, like Lower Mainland, British Columbia. Lots of nice places that are available. And so in our case, it was really easy to rent for us. It was really easy to make all those payments. But we did spend some money on renovations. We did change over, flooring once. We did paint it once. The cash flow from the property covered everything. Plus, we had excess left over, so we were very, very blessed that way. And the value of the property went way up in that time. Now, what we agreed for the option to purchase was whatever the balance of the mortgage was. And see, at the time of when we entered this agreement with Lisa, the market was absolutely dead. And we didn't know what was going to be going on in Kelowna. So we said, listen, what I just said, we don't know what's going on. We don't know whether or not it's going to go up or down or sideways or stay flat or what. So we'll buy it for whatever the balance of your financing is at the end of the term. And fortunately, it was worth a lot more than that because people discovered Kelowna. It's kind of this sleepy, people went there, some people went there in the summer, and suddenly Ontario people were moving, Lower Mainland BC people were coming here, and yeah, the secret was out. So we were very, very blessed that way. And like I said, things were covered that we did have to put work into. And it helped Lisa. Like that's huge. She had this nice little family in Saskatchewan. And I think she made her way back over to BC to be closer to her parents. And this was something for 5 years that she did not have to worry about at all. So that was really amazing to be able to provide that for her. So there's all kind of benefits I'm going to talk about when it comes to why you want to use this strategy, and there are some what ifs, some things that can happen when it comes to these kinds of deals. So I just want to highlight that in the rent to own or lease option training, we have a whole session on all the what ifs and exactly how to handle them. So keep that in mind. So why use this strategy? It's like, why the heck would I ever want to use this strategy in the first place? it for us, especially this deal, it was very low money down. I've gotten into deals for less than that. And even if you have to put 5% down on a lease with an option to purchase, most people that buy a property, if they're using 5% down, they have to have perfect credit, excellent income, and it can be it can be a really uphill climb, and it has to be for their principal residence. So you can't put 5% down on an investment property. But in this case, you can, and your down payment can come from anywhere. It can be a credit card. I don't recommend that, but it can be. You know what? You could be maybe bridge financing while you maybe raise money elsewhere. It can be a line of credit on your house, which usually is much more affordable financing. Prime's a decent rate right now. So you can borrow it from an uncle, you can borrow it from a friend. Banks are super persnickety about where your down payment comes from. So keep that in mind. So it's a huge benefit. In this case, if there's financing already in place, you don't have to qualify for financing. Obviously, this is the kind of motivated seller that we are looking for, where there is financing in place. Because guess what happens? That debt'll get paid down over time. It'll give you time to repair whatever you need to repair, or to save, or to increase your income so that you can qualify to buy it at the end of the term. It'll help you establish a track record so that you can attract a future partner. It is very easy to get a partner on a property that you already operate, that you already know inside out. Okay, you already know the tenants, you already know the things that have been fixed. If you've already basically owned a property for 5 years, you have a level of confidence that a lot of people don't have. See, most people, when they buy an investment property with a partner, they go and they find an investment property, they buy it with a partner, and who knows what they're getting, really. I mean, you could do all the due diligence in the world, and a crack can form in the basement. How do I know this? Guess what? It's totally happened to me, and it totally sucks. But it can happen. So, having a track record with a property can be absolutely huge. You'll get landlording experience. Um, it is a great way to increase your portfolio because a lot of investors run into a wall when it comes to lending. They can usually only buy a small handful of investment properties. Well, this is a way to increase your portfolio. If you set it up right, the tenant's paying all of the expenses that you're paying in order to lease option this property. It's very low risk. It's a great way to get started, and it's a great way if you need to start over. And how do I know this? Because, well, we used it to get started because we needed it, and we used it when we had to start over, when we lost everything way back in the day. So it's a really fantastic strategy. That is lease options to rent your property, session 5. If you want more information about the rest of the lease option training, I just want you to contact me, and we'll have a conversation, see if it's a fit for you to get the training. I hope that it is. It is a strategy that I am so glad that I have in my tool belt. And I know so many people that use it well, and it can be such an incredible win-win for folks. Okay, so that is the training. That's session 5. What questions do you folks have for me? And if you don't have questions, then that's okay too. And if you want to raise your hand or unmute yourself, I don't want it to be too chaotic with the unmuting, but if you want to raise your hand or type it into the chat, then I'm just here looking. I see there's one new message and I can't see it. All right. No. Anyone? Bueller? that movie is like 30 years old or 40 years old. It doesn't make me feel old. I'm fine. I'm perfectly fine. I'm not worried about it. Something's 50 years old I just saw. I can't remember what it is, but it kind of made me feel, kind of made me remember my age. I'm 51. I'm fine. I'm totally fine. I don't think anybody has any questions. Well, aren't you all a bunch of smarty pants? Fantastic. I'm the young one. I'm a young one. I'm a young 51. Thanks, Tracy. You're the best. You're the best. I'll pay you later, sweetheart. $5.
We have no
All right.
questions because you did this amazingly. Really, this is not an option that I've often considered. I prefer the tenant first option. It also helps, with me in my stage of investing where I'm at right now.
Yeah.
But this was really, really cool.
Oh,
Really cool.
I'm so glad I really
Yeah,
enjoyed putting this together. It
yeah.
is so cool. And folks, thank you, Christine. Thank you so much. And thank you for helping me with all the rest of the sessions. I really appreciate it. Um, guys and gals, there's a lot of motivated sellers out there. A lot. And this is a great way to create a win-win. Because nobody wants to lose money. Of course not. And this could be a way, could be a really great way. There's a lot of newer stuff out there too, by the way. A lot of developers that are holding on to vacant, beautiful, brand new properties with a new home or a new home warranty. So what does that mean? It lowers your maintenance costs. So, okay,
Hmm.
well, if there aren't any questions, if you're watching this or if later you think of something, just reach out to me. Okay. I like to think of myself as very, very available. Okay. If my contact information will be somewhere around here if you're watching it on social media. If you're watching this on email, it's somewhere down at the bottom. Schedule with me. Um, phone me, text me. I want to help you with this if I can. I promise you, I'm not going to try to sell you a bunch of stuff. I just want to see if there's a fit and see if it makes sense to again add this strategy to your tool belt because again, it can be really, 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 really powerful. All right, so
Julie, can I
yeah,
ask you a question?
yes, Tracy, please.
What are you working on now? Like you personally and your team, what are you working on? What are you doing?
We are in a holding pattern with development properties.
Okay.
Yeah, so we have uh several lots. One of them one of them is going to be a 22 unit townhouse project. One can become 6 and one can become 12 doors. So we're looking at putting in 4 triplexes.
In
And
Kelowna?
we're just renting them right now. Just renting the properties.
Is that Kelowna?
Yeah, Kelowna.
Are you working with Paul Heck?
No, mm-mm,
Oh, you're not. Okay.
no, but I see his name often.
Right. I think we
Yeah.
talked about that. Yeah.
Yeah, and
Yeah, he's got a big
yeah, we
thing going
definitely
up in
talked about
Kelowna.
that. And I think they've put some advertising in my OREG group from Kathy
Yeah.
Falkenberg.
Van der
I thought
Kamp.
you guys were together for some
Yeah.
reason.
No, just friendly competitors. That's what I call us.
Okay.
Yeah,
Awesome.
yeah, it's great. Good question. Yeah, anybody else? All right,
Awesome,
good.
Julie.
So
Thank you.
I'm gonna leave you with this quote. It's my favorite quote. I do use it a lot. So if you've heard it before, bear with me, but it's so awesome. Good things come to those who wait, but only what's left behind by those who hustle. That's Abraham Lincoln. And folks, we're in a buyer's market right now in some markets. Maybe it's your market. Buyer's markets are always windows that only stay open for so long. All right, so now's the time. If you can figure out a way, find boots on the ground in areas where it's a buyer's market, I highly recommend that you do that. Okay? That's that for now. We'll see you next Wednesday for Weekly Wednesday. Take care, guys. Bye-bye.
Thanks, Julie.
You're welcome. Thanks for being here.
Bye.
Bye.